As the world watches for signs of peace in Ukraine, Russian President Vladimir Putin is stealthily redrawing the map, while the West remains fixated on diplomatic illusions. Under the guise of ceasefire negotiations, Moscow has launched renewed offensives across eastern and southern Ukraine, converting diplomatic pauses into strategic advances. Far from winding down, the war appears to be entering a more dangerous phase, one marked by calculated deception and Western hesitation. According to The Guardian and Reuters, Russian forces have made incremental but significant advances in Donetsk and Zaporizhia in recent weeks, taking advantage of Western focus on negotiations rather than military aid. These maneuvers are not accidental. They reflect a broader Russian strategy of shifting battlefield realities in its favor before any diplomatic framework is finalized. Moscow's timing suggests it views peace talks not as an end to hostilities, but as a smokescreen for expansion. Former U.S. President Donald Trump, who once claimed he could settle the conflict within a single day, now appears sidelined and politically manipulated. His comments suggesting Ukraine might need to make concessions have ignited backlash both domestically and internationally. Politico and Der Spiegel report that European officials see Trump's remarks as dangerously aligned with Kremlin messaging. By signaling willingness to accept Russian territorial claims, Trump is inadvertently, or perhaps intentionally, validating Moscow's aggression. Recent interviews Trump gave to Fox News indicate a strategic misreading of the conflict stakes. His vague proposals, absent of detail or actionable policy, betray either an alarming naivety or calculated political gamesmanship aimed at appeasing isolationist voters. In Kyiv, such statements are met with indignation. President Zelensky, speaking to the Financial Times, warned that any Western-led deal recognizing Russian occupations would enshrine a model of conquest, not peace. While Trump talks diplomacy, Russia rains destruction. In early May, Moscow launched its largest drone barrage of the war, deploying more than 270 Shahid drones in a single night, as confirmed by the New York Times. Civilian neighborhoods, power stations, and water facilities were among the primary targets. Ukrainian defense forces shot down the majority, but the few that broke through caused devastation, flattening apartment blocks and plunging entire districts into darkness. The psychological toll of these attacks is enormous. In Kharkiv and Obukiv, children spent hours in underground shelters while emergency teams pulled bodies from the rubble. According to Reuters, at least 14 civilians, including 3 children, died in the most recent drone wave. Local authorities described the onslaught as part of a deliberate campaign to terrorize the population and exhaust Ukrainian resolve, turning the war into a prolonged siege of morale. Alongside its military aggression, the Kremlin has launched an elaborate propaganda operation aimed at sowing confusion in the West. As per Der Spiegel, Russian intelligence has been distributing false narratives about the ceasefire terms, trying to portray Ukraine as the intransigent party. These disinformation efforts are amplified by bot networks and sympathetic figures in Western media, strategically shifting blame from the aggressor to the victim. In Europe, the response remains uneven. French President Emmanuel Macron continues to stress Ukraine's territorial integrity, while others, most notably in Germany and Hungary, suggest a negotiated end that may include compromise. Die Welt recently quoted German Chancellor Friedrich Merz cautioning against a peace of exhaustion, arguing that appeasement would only embolden Putin and weaken the international legal order built after World War II. Behind the scenes, European diplomats are increasingly wary of Trump's reemergence on the global stage. A Le Monde investigation revealed concerns that Trump, in an effort to score a foreign policy win ahead of the 2024 elections, might push for a rush deal that sacrifices Ukraine's sovereignty. These fears are shared within NATO, where officials worry that Trump's alignment with Russian narratives could fracture the alliance and open Eastern Europe to further destabilization. Putin's manipulation of diplomatic platforms is not new. In Syria, ceasefire declarations were often used by Russian forces to regroup and prepare for intensified assaults. A report by the International Institute for Strategic Studies ISS, cited in foreign policy, concluded that Russia treats ceasefires as strategic breathing spaces rather than genuine steps toward resolution. Ukraine is now confronting a similar pattern: temporary pauses followed by deeper incursions. Meanwhile, Moscow's grip tightens over occupied areas. BBC reports that Russia is issuing local residents with passports, revising school textbooks to align with Kremlin ideology, and replacing elected Ukrainian officials with Russian loyalists. These are not signs of a temporary occupation. They represent an institutional absorption. Putin is consolidating control with a long-term vision, one designed to make any future reversal nearly impossible. Zelensky's administration remains firm. Speaking in Rome during his recent visit, Zelensky proposed a limited ceasefire solely to allow humanitarian aid into heavily bombed cities. However, he warned against any agreement that allows Russia to maintain its gains under the guise of peace. True peace does not mean capitulation, he stated during a joint press appearance with Italian officials, a moment reported by Sky News. We cannot survive by surrendering.